Standard 10, Science and Technology Part 1, Chapter Number 1, Gravitation. Introduction. Can you recall? 1. What are the effects of a force acting on an object? Answer. A. A force can be set a body in motion. Example, a steady car gets motion on pushing it. B. A force can stop a moving body. Example, a moving car can be brought to rest by application of brakes. C. A force acting on a body can change the speed of the body. Example, when brakes are applied to a moving car, its speed decreases. D. A force can change the direction of motion of the body. Example, a volleyball player applies force to change the direction of ball. E. A force can change the speed as well as the direction of the motion of the body. Example, when a ball bowled by a bowler is hit by a batsman, there occurs a change in the speed as well as the direction of the motion of the ball. F. A force can change the shape and size of the body on which it acts. Example, when a spherical clay ball is pressed, it gets deformed and hence no longer remains spherical. Also, there can be a decrease in its volume. 2. What type of forces are you familiar with? Answer. Gravitational force, nuclear force, and electromagnetic force. 3. What do you know about the gravitational force? Answer. The gravitational force is a universal force, that is, it acts between any two objects in the universe. We have seen in the previous standard that the gravitational force is a universal force and it acts not only between two objects on the earth but also between any two objects in the universe. Let us now learn how this force was discovered. Gravitation. As we have learnt, the phenomenon of gravitation was discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. As the story goes, he discovered the force by seeing an apple fall from a tree on the ground. He wondered why all apples fall vertically downward and not an angle to the vertical. Why do they not fly off in a horizontal direction? After much thought, he came to the conclusion that the earth must be attracting the apple towards itself, and this attractive force must be directed towards the center of the earth. The direction from the apple on the tree to the center of the earth is the vertical direction at the position of the apple, and thus the apple falls vertically downwards. Shows an apple tree on the earth. The force on an apple on the tree is towards the center of the earth, that is, along the perpendicular from the position of the apple to the surface of the earth. The figure also shows the gravitational force between the earth and the moon. The distances in the figure are not according to scale. Newton thought that if the force of gravitation acts on apples on the tree at different heights from the surface of the earth, can it also act on objects at even greater heights much farther away from the Earth, like for example the Moon? Can it act on even farther objects like the other planets and the Sun? Use of ICT. Collect videos and PPTs about the gravitational force of different planets. Force and motion. We have seen that a force is necessary to change the speed as well as the direction of motion of an object. Can you recall? What are Newton's laws of motion? Answer. The Newton's law of motion are as follows. 1. Newton's first law of motion. An object continues to remain at rest or in the state of uniform motion along a straight line unless an external unbalanced force acts on it. 2. Newton's second law of motion. The rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force, and the change of momentum occurs in the direction of the force. 3. Newton's third law of motion. Every action force has an equal and opposite reaction force which acts simultaneously. Introduction to Scientist. Great Scientists. Sir Isaac Newton, 1642 to 1727, was one of the greatest scientists of recent times. He was born in England. He gave his laws of motion, equations of motion, and theory of gravity in his book Principia. Before this book was written, Kepler had given 3 laws describing planetary motions. However, the reason why planets move in the way described by Kepler's laws was not known. Newton, with his theory of gravity, mathematically derived Kepler's laws. In addition to this, Newton did groundbreaking work in several areas including light, heat, sound, and mathematics. He invented a new branch of mathematics. This is called calculus and has wide-ranging applications in physics and mathematics. He was the first scientist to construct a reflecting telescope. Circular motion and centripetal force. Try this. Tie a stone to one end of a string. Take the other end in your hand and rotate the string so that the stone moves along a circle as shown in figure. Are you applying any force on the stone? In which direction is this force acting? How will you stop this force from acting? What will be the effect on the stone? As long as we are holding the string, we are pulling the stone towards us, that is, towards the center of the circle, and are applying a force towards it. The force stops acting if we release the string. In this case, the stone will fly off along a straight line which is the tangent to the circle at the position of the stone when the string is released, because that is the direction of its velocity at that instant of time. You may recall that we have performed a similar activity previously in which a 5 rupee coin kept on a rotating circular disc flies off the disc along the tangent to the disc. Thus, a force acts on any object moving along a circle and it is directed towards the center of the circle. This is called the centripetal force. Centripetal means center-seeking. That is, the object tries to go towards the center of the circle because of this force. You know that the moon, which is the natural satellite of the Earth, goes round it in a definite orbit. The direction of motion of the moon as well as its speed constantly changes during this motion. Do you think some force is constantly acting on the moon? What must be the direction of this force? How would its motion have been if no such force acted on it? Do the other planets in the solar system revolve around the sun in a similar fashion? Is similar force acting on them? What must be its direction? From the above activity, example and questions, it is clear that for the moon to go around the earth, there must be a force which is exerted on the moon, and this force must be exerted by the earth, which attracts the moon towards itself. Similarly, the sun must be attracting the planets, including the earth, towards itself. Kepler's laws. Planetary motion had been observed by astronomers since ancient times. Before Galileo, all observations of the planets' positions were made with naked eyes. By the 16th century, a lot of data were available about planetary positions and motion. Johannes Kepler studied these data. He noticed that the motion of planets follows certain laws. He stated 3 laws describing planetary motion. These are known as Kepler's laws. Kepler's first law. The orbit of a planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of the foci, the elliptical orbit of a planet revolving around the sun. The position of the sun is indicated by S. Kepler's second law. The line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. AB and CD are distances covered by the planet in equal time. That is, after equal intervals of time, the positions of the planet starting from A and C are shown by B and D respectively. The straight lines AS and CS sweep equal area in equal interval of time. That is, area ASB and CSD are equal. Kepler's third law. The square of its period of revolution around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of the mean distance of a planet from the sun. Thus, if r is the average distance of the planet from the sun and t is its period of revolution, then t square is directly proportional to r cube, that is, t square upon r cube is equal to constant is equal to k, statement 1. Kepler obtained these laws simply from the study of the positions of planets obtained by regular observations. He had no explanation as to why planets obey these laws. We will see below how these laws helped Newton in the formulation of his theory of gravitation. Use your brain power. If the area ESF in figure is equal to area ASB, what will you infer about EF? Answer. If the area ESF in figure is equal to area ASB, we can infer about EF as follows. The time taken by the planet to move from E to F is equal to the time taken by the planet to move from A to B. Do you know? An ellipse is the curve obtained when a cone is cut by an inclined plane. It has two focal points. The sum of the distances to the two focal points from every point on the curve is constant. F1 and F2 are two focal points of the ellipse shown in figure. If A, B and C are 3 points on the ellipse, then AF1 plus AF2 is equal to BF1 plus BF2 is equal to CF1 plus CF2. Use your brain power. If the area ESF in figure is equal to area ASB, what will you infer about EF? Newton's universal law of gravitation. All the above considerations, including Kepler's laws, led Newton to formulate his theory of universal gravity. According to this theory, every object in the universe attracts every other object with a definite force. This force is directly proportional to the product of the masses of the two objects and is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. An introduction to scientists. Johannes Kepler, 1571 to 1630, was a German astronomer and mathematician. He started working as a helper to the famous astronomer Tycho Brahe in Prague in 1600. After the sudden death of Brahe in 1601, Kepler was appointed as the royal mathematician in his place. Kepler used the observations of planetary positions made by Brahe to discover the laws of planetary motion. He wrote several books. His work was later used by Newton in postulating his law of gravitation. Figure shows two objects with masses m1 and m2 kept at a distance d from each other. Mathematically, the gravitational force of attraction between these two bodies can be written as F is directly proportional to m1 m2 upon d square, or F is equal to g m1 m2 upon d square. Statement 2. Here, g is the constant of proportionality and is called the universal gravitational constant. The above law means that if the mass of one object is doubled, the force between the two objects also doubles. Also, if the distance is doubled, the force decreases by a factor of 4. If the two bodies are spherical, the direction of the force is always along the line joining the centers of the two bodies, and the distance between the centers is taken to be d. In case when the bodies are not spherical or have irregular shape, then the direction of force is along the line joining their centers of mass, and d is taken to be the distance between the two centers of mass. From equation 2, it can be seen that the value of g is the gravitational force acting between two unit masses kept at a unit distance away from each other. Thus, in SI units, the value of g is equal to the gravitational force between two masses of 1 kg kept 1 meter apart. The center of mass of an object is the point inside or outside the object at which the total mass of the object can be assumed to be concentrated. The center of mass of a spherical object having uniform density is at its geometrical center. The center of mass of any object having uniform density is at its centroid. Why did Newton assume inverse square dependence on distance in his law of gravitation? He was helped by Kepler's third law in this as shown below. Use your brain power. Show that in SI units, the unit of G in Newton m square per kg square, the value of G was first experimentally measured by Henry Cavendish. In SI units, its value is 6.673 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. Answer. According to Newton's law of gravitation, the gravitational force between two particles is given by the formula F is equal to G m1 m2 upon r square, where m1 and m2 are the measures of the two particles, r is the distance between them, and G is the universal constant of gravitation. From the above formula, we get G is equal to Fr square upon m1 m2. The SI unit of the force is Newton, N. That of distance is meter, m. And that of mass is the kilogram, kg. Therefore, SI unit of G is equal to Newton meter square per kg square. Uniform circular motion, magnitude of centripetal force. Consider an object moving in a circle with constant speed. We have seen earlier that such a motion is possible only when the object is constantly acted upon by a force directed towards the center of the circle. This force is called the centripetal force. If m is the mass of the object, v is its speed, and r is the radius of the circle, then it can be shown that this force is equal to F is equal to m v square upon r. If a planet is revolving around the Sun in a circular orbit in uniform circular motion, then the centripetal force acting on the planet towards the Sun must be F is equal to mv square upon r, where m is the mass of the planet, v is its speed, and r is its distance from the Sun. Speed is equal to distance travelled upon time taken. The speed of the planet can be expressed in terms of the period of revolution t as follows. The distance travelled by the planet in one revolution is equal to perimeter of the orbit 2 pi r. R is equal to distance of the planet from the Sun. Time taken is equal to period of revolution is equal to t. V is equal to distance travelled upon time taken is equal to 2 pi r upon t. F is equal to mv square upon r is equal to m 2 pi r upon t square upon r is equal to 4 m pi square r upon t square. Multiplying and dividing by r square, we get F is equal to 4 m pi square upon r square is equal to r cube upon t square. According to Kepler's third law, t square upon r cube is equal to k. F is equal to 4 m pi square upon r square k, but 4 m pi square upon k is equal to constant. Thus, Newton concluded that the centripetal force, which is the force acting on the planet and is responsible for its circular motion, must be inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the planet and the Sun. Newton identified this force with the force of gravity and hence postulated the inverse square law of gravitation. The gravitational force is much weaker than other forces in nature, but it controls the universe and decides its future. This is possible because of the huge masses of planets, stars, and other constituents of the universe. Use your brain power. Is there a gravitational force between two objects kept on a table or between you and your friend sitting next to you? If yes, why don't the two move towards each other? Answer: yes, there is a gravitational force between two objects kept on a table or between me and my friend sitting next to me. Two objects kept on a table do not move towards each other because there is a force of friction between each object and the table. Similarly, because there is a force of friction between my body and the floor, and same with my friend. Hence, do not move towards each other. Solved examples. Example 1. Mahendra and Virat are sitting at a distance of 1 meter from each other. Their masses are 75 kg and 80 kg respectively. What is the gravitational force between them? Given R is equal to 1 meter, M1 is equal to 75 kg, M2 is equal to 80 kg, and G is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Nm square upon kg square. According to Newton's law, F is equal to Gm1 m2 upon r square. F is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into 75 into 80 upon 1 square n is equal to 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 n. The gravitational force between Mahendra and Virat is 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 n. This is a very small force. If the force of friction between Mahendra and the bench on which he is sitting is 0, then he will start moving towards Virat under the action of this force. We can calculate his acceleration and velocity by using Newton's laws of motion. Example 2. In the previous example, assuming that the bench on which Mahendra is sitting is frictionless, starting with 0 velocity, what will be Mahendra's velocity of motion towards Virat after 1 second? Will this velocity change with time, and how? Given force on Mahendra is equal to F is equal to 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 n. Mahendra's mass is equal to m is equal to 75 kg. According to Newton's second law, the acceleration produced by the force on Mahendra is equal to m is equal to 75 kg. A is equal to F upon m is equal to 4.002 into 10 raised to minus 7 upon 75 is equal to 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters per second square. Using Newton's first equation, we can calculate Mahendra's velocity after 1 second. Newton's first equation of motion is V is equal to U plus AT. As Mahindra is sitting on the bench, his initial velocity is 0. Into bracket, U is equal to 0, bracket complete. Assuming the bench to be frictionless, V is equal to 0 plus 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 into 1 meter per second. 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meter per second. Mahindra's velocity after 1 second will be 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meter per second. This is an extremely small velocity. The velocity will increase with time because of the acceleration. The acceleration will also not remain constant because as Mahindra moves towards Virat, the distance between them will decrease, causing an increase in the gravitational force, thereby increasing the acceleration as per Newton's second law of motion. Use your brain power. Assuming the acceleration in example 2 remains constant, how long will Mahindra take to move 1 centimeter towards Virat? Answer. Here, U is equal to 0. Therefore, S is equal to UT plus 1 upon 2 AT square, that is equal to 0 plus 1 upon 2 AT square. Therefore, T is equal to square root 2S upon A, that is equal to square root 2 into 1 into 10 raised to 2m upon 5.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 m per s square, that is equal to square root 0.3745 into 10 raised to 7 s square, that is equal to square root 3.745 into 10 raised to 6 s, that is equal to 1935 s, that is equal to 32 minutes 15 seconds. Do you know? You must be knowing about the high and low tides that occur regularly in the sea. The level of sea water at any given location along seashore increases and decreases twice a day at regular intervals. High and low tides occur at different times at different places. The level of water in the sea changes because of the gravitational force exerted by the moon. Water directly under the moon gets pulled towards the moon and the level of water there goes up, causing high tide at that place. At two places on the earth at 90 degrees from the place of high tide, the level of water is minimum and low tides occur there as shown in figure. Earth's gravitational force. Will the velocity of a stone thrown vertically upwards remain constant or will it change with time? How will it change? Why doesn't the stone move up all the time? Why does it fall down after reaching a certain height? What does its maximum height depend on? The earth attracts every object near it towards itself because of the gravitational force. The center of mass of the earth is situated at its center, so the gravitational force on any object due to the earth is always directed towards the center of the earth. Because of this force, an object falls vertically downwards on the earth. Similarly, when we throw a stone vertically upwards, this force tries to pull it down and reduces its velocity. Due to this constant downward pull, the velocity becomes zero after a while. the pull continues to be exerted and the stone starts moving vertically downward towards the center of the earth under its influence. Solved examples. Example 1. Calculate the gravitational force due to the earth on Mahindra in the earlier example. Given, mass of the earth is equal to m1 is equal to 6 into 10 raised to 24 kg. Radius of the earth is equal to r is equal to 6.4 into 10 raised to 6 m. Mahindra's mass is equal to m2 is equal to 75 kg. G is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 nm square upon kg square. Using the force law, the gravitational force on Mahindra due to earth is given by this force is 1.83 into 10 raised to 9 times larger than the gravitational force between Mahindra and Virat. F is equal to gm1 m2 upon r square. F is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into 75 into 6 into 10 raised to 24 upon 6.4 into 10 raised to 6 square n is equal to 733 n. Example 2. Starting from rest, what will be Mahindra's velocity after 1 second if he is falling down due to the gravitational force of the earth? Given u is equal to 0, f is equal to 733 n. Mahindra's mass is equal to m is equal to 75 kg. Time t is equal to 1 second. Mahindra's acceleration a is equal to f upon m is equal to 733 upon 75 m per second square. According to Newton's first equation of motion, v is equal to u plus at. Mahindra's velocity after 1 second, v is equal to 0 plus 9.77 into 1 meters per second. V is equal to 9.77 meter per second. This is 1.83 into 10 raised to 9 times Mahindra's velocity in example 2 on page 6. Use your brain power. According to Newton's law of gravitation, every object attracts every other object. Thus, if the earth attracts an apple towards itself, the apple also attracts the earth towards itself with the same force. Why then does the apple fall towards the earth but the earth does not move towards the apple? Answer. The earth and the apple move towards each other, but the magnitude of the displacement of the earth is negligible relative to that of the apple. Therefore, the earth does not move towards an apple. The gravitational force due to the earth also acts on the moon, because of which it revolves around the earth. Similar situation exists for the artificial satellites orbiting the earth. The moon and the artificial satellites orbit the earth. The earth attracts them towards itself, but unlike the falling apple, they do not fall on the earth. Why? This is because of the velocity of the moon and the satellites along their orbits. If this velocity was not there, they would have fallen on the earth. Earth's gravitational acceleration. The earth exerts gravitational force on objects near it. According to Newton's second law of motion, a force acting on a body results in its acceleration. Thus, the gravitational force due to the earth on a body results in its acceleration. This is called acceleration due to gravity and is denoted by g. Acceleration is a vector. As the gravitational force on any object due to the earth is directed towards the center of the earth, the direction of the acceleration due to gravity is also directed towards the center of the earth, that is, vertically downwards. Think about it. What would happen if there were no gravity? There would be no gravitational attraction between any two particles and hence no formation of the solar system, galaxy, etc. What would happen if the value of g was twice as large? The gravitational force between any two particles would become double. Also, the value of g becomes double. Value of g on the surface of the earth. We can calculate the value of g by using Newton's universal law of gravitation for an object of mass m situated at a distance r from the center of the earth. The law of gravitation gives F is equal to gmm upon r square. M is the mass of the earth. F is equal to mg. Statement 4. From 3 and 4, mg is equal to gmm upon r square. G is equal to gm upon r square. Statement 5. If the object is situated on the surface of the earth, r is equal to radius of the earth. Thus, the value of g on the surface of the earth is g is equal to gm upon r square. Statement 6. The unit of g in SI units is m upon s square. The mass and radius of the earth are 6 into 10 raised to 24 kg and 6.4 into 10 raised to 6 m respectively. Using these in 6, g is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into 6 into 10 raised to 24 upon 6.4 into 10 raised to 6 square is equal to 9.77 meters per second square. Statement 7. This acceleration depends only on the mass m and radius r of the earth, and so the acceleration due to gravity at a given point on the earth is the same for all objects. It does not depend on the properties of the object. Can you tell what would be the value of g on the surface of the earth if its mass was twice as large and its radius half of what it is now? G is equal to gm upon r square. Therefore, g1 is equal to gm1 upon r1 square and g2 is equal to gm2 upon r2 square. Therefore, g2 upon g1 is equal to m2 upon m1 r1 upon r2 square. Therefore, g2 is equal to g1 is equal to m2 upon m1 r1 upon r2 square, that is equal to g1 is equal to 2 square, because m2 is equal to 2m1 and because r2 is equal to r1 upon 2. Therefore, g2 is equal to 8g1. Thus, the value of g on the surface of the earth would be 8 times the present value. Variation in value of g. A. Change along the surface of the earth. will the value of g be the same everywhere on the surface of the earth? The answer is no. The reason is that the shape of the earth is not exactly spherical, and so the distance of a point on the surface of the earth from its center differs somewhat from place to place. Due to its rotation, the earth bulges at the equator and is flatter at the poles. Its radius is largest at the equator and smallest at the poles. The value of g is thus highest 9.832 meter per second square at the poles and decreases slowly with decreasing latitude. It is lowest 9.78 meter per second square at the equator. B. Change with height. As we go above the Earth's surface, the value of r in equation 5 increases and the value of g decreases. However, the decrease is rather small for heights which are small in comparison to the Earth's radius. For example, remember that the radius of the Earth is 6,400 kilometers. If an aeroplane is flying at a height 10 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, its distance from the Earth's surface changes from 6,400 kilometers to 6,410 kilometers, and the change in the value of g due to it is negligible. On the other hand, when we consider an artificial satellite orbiting the Earth, we have to take into account the change in the value of g due to the large change in the distance of the satellite from the center of the Earth. Some typical heights and the values of g at these heights are given in the table. Place, surface of the Earth average, height in kilometers 0, g, meters per second square 9.8. Place, Mount Everest, height in kilometers 8.8, g, meter per second square 9.8. Place, maximum height reached by man-made balloon, height in kilometers 36.6, g, meter per second square 9.77. Place, height of a typical weather satellite, height in kilometers 400, g, meter per second square 8.7. Place, height of communication satellite, height in kilometers 35,700, g, meter per second square 0.225. C. Change with depth. The value of g also changes if we go inside the Earth. The value of r in equation 5 decreases, and one would think that the value of g should increase as per the formula. However, the part of the Earth which contributes towards the gravitational force felt by the object also decreases, which means that the value of m to be used in equation 5 also decreases. As a combined result of change in r and m, the value of g decreases as we go deep inside the Earth. Think about it. Will the direction of the gravitational force change as we go inside the Earth? Answer: no. What will be the value of g at the center of the Earth? Answer: 0. Every planet and satellite has different mass and radius. Hence, according to equation 6, the values of g on their surfaces are different. On the Moon, it is about 1/6 of the value on the Earth. As a result, using the same amount of force, we can jump 6 times higher on the Moon as compared to that on the Earth. Mass and weight. Mass. Mass is the amount of matter present in the object. The SI unit of mass is kg. Mass is a scalar quantity. Its value is same everywhere. Its value does not change even when we go to another planet. According to Newton's first law, it is the measure of the inertia of an object. Higher the mass, higher is the inertia. Weight. The weight of an object is defined as the force with which the earth attracts the object. The force, F, on an object of mass m on the surface of the earth can be written using equation 4. Therefore, weight W is equal to F is equal to mg. G is equal to gm upon r square. Weight being a force, its SI unit is Newton. Also, the weight being a force is a vector quantity and its direction is towards the center of the earth. As the value of G is not same everywhere, the weight of an object changes from place to place, though its mass is constant everywhere. Colloquially, we use weight for both mass and weight and measure the weight in kilograms, which is the unit of mass. But in scientific language, when we say that Rajiv's weight is 75 kg, we are talking about Rajiv's mass. What we mean is that Rajiv's weight is equal to the gravitational force on 75 kg mass. As Rajiv's mass is 75 kg, his weight on earth is F is equal to mg is equal to 75 into 9.8 is equal to 735 N. The weight of 1 kg mass is 1 into 9.8 is equal to 9.8 N. Our weighing machines tell us the mass. The two scale balances in shops compare two weights, that is, two masses. Use your brain power. Will your weight remain constant as you go above the surface of the earth? Suppose you are standing on a tall ladder. If your distance from the center of the earth is 2r, what will be your weight? Answer. Weight is equal to W is equal to gmm upon r square, that is equal to gmm upon 2r square, that is equal to gmm upon 4r square, that is equal to 1 upon 4 gmm upon r square is equal to weight on the earth upon 4. Solved examples. Example 1. If a person weighs 750 N on earth, how much would be his weight on the moon given that moon's mass is 1 upon 81 of that of the earth and its radius is 1 upon 3.7 of that of the earth? Given, weight on earth is equal to 750 N. Ratio of mass of the earth, ME, to mass of the moon, MM, is equal to ME upon MM is equal to 81. Ratio of radius of earth, RE, to radius of moon, RM, is equal to RE upon RM is equal to 3.7. Let the mass of the person be m kg. Weight on the earth is equal to mg is equal to 750 is equal to mg me upon re square. Therefore, m is equal to 750 re square upon gme, statement 1. weight on moon is equal to mgmm upon rm square using statement 1 is equal to 750 re square upon gme into gmm upon rm square is equal to 750 re square upon rm square into mm upon me is equal to 750 into 3.7 square into 1 upon 81 is equal to 126.8 N. The weight on the moon is nearly 1 upon 6th of the weight on the earth. We can write the weight on moon as mgm. Gm is the acceleration due to gravity on the moon. Thus, Gm is 1 upon 6th of the G on the earth. Gravitational waves. Do you know? Waves are created on the surface of water when we drop a stone into it. Similarly, you must have seen the waves generated on a string when both its ends are held in hand and it is shaken. Light is also a type of wave called the electromagnetic wave. Gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays, infrared rays, microwave and radio waves are all different types of electromagnetic waves. Astronomical objects emit these waves and we receive them using our instruments. All our knowledge about the universe has been obtained through these waves. Gravitational waves are a very different type of waves. They have been called the waves on the fabric of space-time. Einstein predicted their existence in 1916. These waves are very weak and it is very difficult to detect them. Scientists have constructed extremely sensitive instruments to detect the gravitational waves emitted by astronomical sources. Among these, LIGO, Laser Interferometric Gravitational Wave Observatory, is the prominent one. Exactly after 100 years of their prediction, scientists detected these waves coming from an astronomical source. Indian scientists have contributed significantly in this discovery. This discovery has opened a new path to obtain information about the universe. Free fall. Try this. Take a small stone. Hold it in your hand. Which forces are acting on the stone? Now, release the stone. What do you observe? What are the forces acting on the stone after you release it? Answer. A. The forces are acting on that small stone are the force exerted by the person holding it, the force exerted by the air, and the Earth's gravitational force. B. After releasing the stone, it falls on the ground. C. The forces acting on the stone after releasing it are the force exerted by air and the Earth's gravitational force. We know that the force of gravity due to the Earth acts on each and every object. When we were holding the stone in our hand, the stone was experiencing this force, but it was balanced by a force that we were applying on it in the opposite direction. As a result, the stone remained at rest. Once we release the stone from our hands, the only force that acts on it is the gravitational force of the Earth, and the stone falls down under its influence. Whenever an object moves under the influence of the force of gravity alone, it is said to be falling freely. Thus, the released stone is in a free fall. In free fall, the initial velocity of the object is zero and goes on increasing due to the acceleration due to gravity of the earth. During free fall, the frictional force due to air opposes the motion of the object, and a buoyant force also acts on the object. Thus, true free fall is possible only in vacuum. For a freely falling object, the velocity on reaching the earth and the time taken for it can be calculated by using Newton's equations of motion. For free fall, the initial velocity u is equal to 0 and the acceleration a is equal to g. Thus, we can write the equations as v is equal to gt, s is equal to 1 upon 2 gt square, v square is equal to 2 gs. For calculating the motion of an object thrown upwards, acceleration is negative, that is, in a direction opposite to the velocity, and is taken to be minus g. The magnitude of g is the same, but the velocity of the object decreases because of this negative acceleration. The moon and the artificial satellites are moving only under the influence of the gravitational field of the earth. Thus, they are in free fall. Do you know? The value of g is the same for all objects at a given place on the earth. Thus, any two objects, irrespective of their masses or any other properties, when dropped from the same height and falling freely, will reach the earth at the same time. Galileo is said to have performed an experiment around 1590 in the Italian city of Pisa. He dropped two spheres of different masses from the Leaning Tower of Pisa to demonstrate that both spheres reached the ground at the same time. When we drop a feather and a heavy stone at the same time from a height, they do not reach the earth at the same time. The feather experiences a buoyant force and a frictional force due to air and therefore floats and reaches the ground slowly, later than the heavy stone. The buoyant and the frictional forces on the stone are much less than the weight of the stone and does not affect the speed of the stone much. Recently, scientists performed this experiment in vacuum and showed that the feather and stone indeed reach the earth at the same time. Solved examples. Example 1. An iron ball of mass 3 kg is released from a height of 125 meters and falls freely to the ground. Assuming that the value of g is 10 meters per second square, calculate time taken by the ball to reach the ground, velocity of the ball on reaching the ground, the height of the ball at half the time it takes to reach the ground. Given m is equal to 3 kg. Distance travelled by the ball s is equal to 125 meters. Initial velocity of the ball is equal to u is equal to 0 and acceleration a is equal to g is equal to 10 meters per second square. Newton's second equation of motion gives S is equal to ut plus 1 upon 2 at square. Therefore, 125 is equal to 0t plus 1 upon 2 into 10 into t square is equal to 5t square. T square is equal to 125 upon 5 is equal to 25. T is equal to 5 seconds. The ball takes 5 seconds to reach the ground. According to Newton's first equation of motion, final velocity is equal to v is equal to u plus at is equal to 0 plus 10 into 5 is equal to 50 meters per second. The velocity of the ball on reaching the ground is 50 meters per second. Half time is equal to t is equal to 5 upon 2 is equal to 2.5 seconds. Ball's height at this time is equal to s. According to Newton's second equation, s is equal to ut plus 1 upon 2 at square. S is equal to 0 plus 1 upon 2 10 into 2.5 square is equal to 31.25 meters. Thus, the height of the ball at half time is equal to 125 minus 31.25 is equal to 93.75 meters. Example 2. A tennis ball is thrown up and reaches a height of 4.05 meters before coming down. What was its initial velocity? How much total time will it take to come down? Assume g is equal to 10 meter per second square. Given. For the upward motion of the ball, the final velocity of the ball is equal to v is equal to 0. Distance travelled by the ball is equal to 4.05 meters. Acceleration a is equal to minus g is equal to minus 10 meters per second square. Using Newton's third equation of motion, v square is equal to u square plus 2as. 0 is equal to u square plus 2 minus 10 into 4.05. Therefore, u square is equal to 81. U is equal to 9 meter per second. The initial velocity of the ball is 9 meter per second. Now, let us consider the downward motion of the ball. Suppose the ball takes t seconds to come down. Now, the initial velocity of the ball is 0. U is equal to 0. Distance travelled by the ball on reaching the ground is equal to 4.05 meters. As the velocity and acceleration are in the same direction, a is equal to g is equal to 10 meters per second. According to Newton's second equation of motion, s is equal to ut plus 1 upon 2 at square. 4.05 is equal to 0 plus 1 upon 2 10t square. T square is equal to 4.05 divided by 5 is equal to 0.81. T is equal to 0.9 seconds. The ball will take 0.9 seconds to reach the ground. It will take the same time to go up. Thus, the total time taken is equal to 2 into 0.9 is equal to 1.8 seconds. Use your brain power. According to Newton's law of gravitation, Earth's gravitational force is higher on an object of larger mass. Why doesn't that object fall down with higher velocity as compared to an object with lower mass? Answer. According to Newton's law of gravitation, the Earth's gravitational force is higher on an object of larger mass. but that object doesn't fall down with higher velocity as compared to an object with lower mass because F is equal to ma and F is equal to gmm upon r square. Therefore, acceleration A is equal to gm upon r square. This is independent of the mass m of the object. Hence, an object of larger mass and an object of lower mass fall down with the same velocity. Gravitational potential energy. We have studied potential energy in last standard. The energy stored in an object because of its position or state is called potential energy. This energy is relative and increases as we go to greater heights from the surface of the earth. We had assumed that the potential energy of an object of mass m at a height h from the ground is mgh and on the ground it is 0. When h is small compared to the radius r of the earth, we can assume g to be constant and can use the above formula mgh. But for large values of h, the value of g decreases with increase in h. For an object at infinite distance from the earth, the value of g is 0 and Earth's gravitational force does not act on the object. So it is more appropriate to assume the value of potential energy to be 0 there. Thus, for smaller distances, that is heights, the potential energy is less than 0. That is, it is negative. When an object is at a height h from the surface of the earth, its potential energy is minus gmm upon r plus h here. M and r are Earth's mass and radius respectively. Escape velocity. We have seen that when a ball is thrown upwards, its velocity decreases because of the gravitation of the earth. The velocity becomes 0 after reaching a certain height and after that ball starts falling down. Its maximum height depends on its initial velocity. According to Newton's third equation of motion is v square is equal to u square plus 2as. V is equal to the final velocity of the ball is equal to 0 and a is equal to minus g. Therefore, 0 is equal to u square plus 2 minus gs and maximum height of the ball is equal to s is equal to minus u square upon 2g. Thus, higher the initial velocity u, the larger is the height reached by the ball. The reason for this is that the higher the initial velocity, the ball will oppose the gravity of the earth more and larger will be the height to which it can reach. We have seen above that the value of g keeps decreasing as we go higher above the surface of the earth. Thus, the force pulling the ball downward decreases as the ball goes up. If we keep increasing the initial velocity of the ball, it will reach larger and larger heights, and above a particular value of initial velocity of the ball is able to overcome the downward pull by the earth and can escape the earth forever and will not fall back on the earth. This velocity is called escape velocity. We can determine its value by using the law of conservation of energy as follows. An object going vertically upwards from the surface of the earth, having an initial velocity equal to the escape velocity, escapes the gravitational force of the earth. the force of gravity, being inversely proportional to the square of the distance, becomes zero only at infinite distance from the Earth. This means that for the object to be free from the gravity of the Earth, it has to reach infinite distance from the Earth. That is, the object will come to rest at infinite distance and will stay there. For an object of mass m on the surface of the Earth, A. Kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mv escape square. B. Potential energy is equal to minus gmm upon r. C. Total energy is equal to E1 is equal to kinetic energy plus potential energy is equal to 1/2 mv escape square minus gmm upon r. At infinite distance from the Earth, A. Kinetic energy is equal to 0. B. Potential energy is equal to minus gmm upon infinity is equal to 0. C. Total energy is equal to E2 is equal to kinetic energy plus potential energy is equal to 0. From the principle of conservation of energy, E1 is equal to E2. 1/2 mv escape square minus gmm upon r is equal to 0. V's escape square is equal to 2 gm upon r. V escape is equal to square root 2 gm upon r is equal to square root 2 gr is equal to square root 2 into 9.8 into 6.4 into 10 raised to 6 is equal to 11.2 kilometers per second. The spacecrafts which are sent to the Moon or other planets have to have their initial velocity larger than the escape velocity so that they can overcome Earth's gravitational attraction and can travel to these objects. Solved examples. Example 1. Calculate the escape velocity on the surface of the Moon given the mass and radius of the Moon to be 7.34 into 10 raised to 22 kg and 1.74 into 10 raised to 6 meters respectively. Given g is equal to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 n m square per kg square. Mass of the Moon is equal to m is equal to 7.34 into 10 raised to 22 kg and radius of the Moon is equal to r is equal to 1.74 into 10 raised to 6 meters. Escape velocity is equal to V escape is equal to square root 2 gm upon r, square root 2 into 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into 7.34 into 10 raised to 22 upon 1.74 into 10 raised to 6 is equal to 2.37 kilometers per second. Escape velocity on the Moon 2.37 kilometers per second. Weightlessness in space. Do you know? Space travelers as well as objects in the spacecraft appear to be floating. Why does this happen? Though the spacecraft is at a height from the surface of the Earth, the value of g there is not 0. In the space station, the value of g is only 11% less than its value on the surface of the Earth. Thus, the height of the spacecraft is not the reason for their weightlessness. Their weightlessness is caused by their being in the state of free fall. Though the spacecraft is not falling on the Earth, because of its velocity along the orbit, the only force acting on it is the gravitational force of the Earth, and therefore it is in a free fall. As the velocity of free fall does not depend on the properties of an object, the velocity of free fall is the same for the spacecraft, the travelers, and the objects in the craft. Thus, if a traveler releases an object from her hand, it will remain stationary with respect to her and will appear to be weightless.